It is important to underscore that to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology.
Who's sitting behind him? This is awkward. Well, that's Susan Gough. She is the Pentagon spokesperson, and a lot of people are not too fond of her. In fact, Lou Elizondo called her a psychological operations officer working for the Pentagon, right, to feed disinformation to the public.
Okay, so while I was recording the interview, I only got to see about 30 minutes of the hearing in the Senate with AARO. Apparently, I didn't miss much because it only lasted for another 10 minutes or something. I don't know. But I can tell you the impressions I got. I am not going to mock Susan Gough, for example. She did look pretty ominous. I'm not going to lie. But that's about as far as I can go in terms of saying something possibly negative about her. She just gave me the creeps a little bit, like she's evil, Maybe she's not, but she does look really scary. And it was really weird when I saw her sitting right behind Kozlowski. I have heard from the UFO Joe Murgia, shout out Joe, that people within the intelligence community already know her. And whenever there are hearings, she always does this clearing her throat thing. They call it the Gough cough. Apparently, this is a sign where people need to check themselves when they're talking about classified stuff and just remember that she's sitting right there. And just be aware, her sitting there right behind Kozlowski, despite not saying anything, it is sending a message to all of these whistleblowers who have refused to go to AARO. It is saying, don't come to AARO. Because clearly, AARO's mission, while she's there and while Tim Phillips is still there, is to debunk every single case. They're not going to look at it through a scientific lens. That is not their job. When are you people going to understand? And whoever is still giving credit to AARO, saying AARO already said this is not true, therefore this is not true. How does that logic work for you? I mean, AARO was created by the Pentagon. And the place and the organism that is allegedly hiding all of this stuff and the truth of the phenomenon is the Pentagon. So why would an office created by the Pentagon be telling the truth about all of this? It doesn't make sense, guys. The only people that I understand why they're giving credit to AARO are debunkers and skeptics, because they have the same agenda. But people who go yeah, AARO did okay, they're looking for transparency, that is not true at all. And yesterday, when I saw Kozlowski and the face of fear he presented with Susan Gough right behind him, that was very telling for me. I have to give kudos to Kozlowski for at least presenting a different tone when he was talking about all of this. Because contrary to Kirkpatrick, Kozlowski did talk about 3 specific cases of accounts from service people who had encounters they cannot explain. And Kozlowski also goes in detail in why he cannot explain them either, but the investigations are ongoing. Here's the clip of that.
3 cases that merit analysis that we're working on right now. One we might be in the process of resolving, but nonetheless is still interesting. The first one was brought to us by a law enforcement officer out west, where he observed a large orange orb floating several hundred feet above the ground a couple miles away. He went to investigate what was going on with that orb. And as he was pulling up to the location where he thought would be below the orb, about 40 to 60 meters away from some object the area was well lit. He saw a blacker than black object. He said it was about the size of a Prius, 4 to 6 feet wide. And as he got 40 to 60 meters away from the object, it tilted up about 45 degrees, and then it shot up vertically. He says 10 to 100 times faster than any drone he's ever seen before. And it did that without making a sound as far as he could tell from inside of his vehicle. And just as it left his field of view through his windshield, then it emitted very bright red and blue lights that illuminated the inside of his vehicle as brightly as if someone had set off fireworks just outside of his vehicle or street flares. So that's anomalous because of the size of the vehicle with the great acceleration. And when he came back to investigate that area, he found no disturbance of the ground beneath it. So that's one interesting one. Another one comes to us from Southeast U.S. There was a U.S. facility where 2 cars of government contractors were leaving the facility around 9 o'clock in the morning. They looked up in the sky and saw a large metallic cylinder about the size of a commercial airplane, and it was stationary. They observed that there was a very bright white light behind or around the object. They saw it stationary for 15 to 20 seconds, and then it disappeared. Obviously, an object that large, stationary, unless it's a blimp, is unusual, but then disappearing, we can't explain how that would happen. And then the last case was interesting. We had a aircraft that was flying parallel to another aircraft, and it was capturing imagery of it, and a small looking object appeared to fly between the two of them much faster than them. Through very careful analysis, we think that the object might have actually been further away than the object that it was videotaping, but it requires very careful analysis to come to those conclusions, and we don't have the metadata to support that.
Yeah. So I never heard Kirkpatrick saying anything like that, even remotely close to it. I think this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I would say it's one big boondoggle, and Ronak Patel, someone that was actually out in Washington D.C. helping us at a UAP Disclosure Fund. We were really grateful for his help. He found this on Twitter, X. So if anyone wants to know how close Dr. Kozlowski's handler is, look no further than just a few feet away. So on your left there is Pentagon Public Affairs Officer who has I think a master's in psychological warfare. If I remember right, that's what Lou Elizondo pointed out. So there on the left, Sue Gough, Pentagon Public Affairs Officer, where literally any public media inquiry regarding the UAP issue goes through her, goes through a psychological warfare officer. I mean, you just can't make this shit up. It's insane.
Well, she literally wrote a portion of the book on psychological warfare and has also written papers on shaping operations in a domestic sense, utilizing media and other outlets. It's pretty clear that at least one person is holding some puppet strings. The question is who's holding Susan's?
Yeah, well, that is a good question.